Part of being a teenager is discovering how to have fun and discovering how to make friends, and then also failing miserably at times.
It was just a matter of time before I put alcohol and marijuana before everything else, to the point that I lost everything.
This is probably for adolescents more lethal than having cancer. Potentially more lethal. Because we can do something about the cancers. We're having a lot of trouble doing something about the drug abuse in these kids.
You see all the signs and you try to keep your neighborhood or your school drug free, but they're there. They're not going to get rid of them.
You know, it's a very huge worry every day to think about things like, you know, is this the last day my child will be alive?
Because I chose drugs over my family, and it wasn't the best choice I made, but that's why I did.
When people say, for instance, you know, how's everybody in the family? You go, well, today's a good day. And that's really all you could say about addiction and families. Today's a good day. SAMA stands for the Science and Management of Addictions, and I think all of the work that the Foundation hopes to do derives from that name. One is to increase the emphasis and focus on science and research to understand addictions better. But a lot of it is to find better ways to support and connect families who are dealing with this issue, and also making sure that there are resources available to them in the community.
When I was using, there was nothing more important than using. I didn't care about anything other than that. I've gone from being so depressed that my best solution was wanting to die.
A person gets into addiction and you can see it clearly on brain scans. The pathway, the satisfaction pathway, just overtakes all kinds of rational behavior.
A lot of people will look at a struggling addict or alcoholic and they'll think, why can't you stop? You should just stop.
This new brain science that is now being developed really is going to tell us much more about the science of addiction than we have ever known. We treat it now as a behavioral disease, and it is. And we cure a lot of people with therapies that relate to behaviors and new ways of being in the world, and I don't think we're going to stop doing that. But when we begin to understand the chemistry and the mechanics of addiction from a scientific point of view, I think additional avenues for approaching this disease will also be available to us that are not available now.
Using drugs is like a loaded gun. It's like, so when does a loaded gun become a problem? In the hands of a young adult who isn't an adult yet, who hasn't had the experience to handle things.
They can unknowingly open a door or cross a threshold in which they become one of maybe 10 in the population that might actually be targeted for alcoholism or chemical dependency. And because they're a teen, they're at double that risk, I think, and therefore they could be one of 5.
And it just happens that some of these children are going to turn out to be addicted to drugs, and it's going to be a lifelong problem for them.
By the time she was in high school, 14, 15, and particularly 16, it really got quite bad. And she would disappear at times and run away from home and so forth. There was really not very much we could do about it. We tried some interventions with counselors and others before. Seemed to have very little effect.
To me, it was just trying it and having fun. And then it became to something that I liked and felt like I needed to do to get through the day and to get through life.
It feels like something you could have controlled. I mean, if they're sick because they used something and you, for some reason, couldn't keep them from it, it must be your fault. Well, that's a pretty horrible place for a parent to be.
You can't even get them. There's always going to be temptations out there and triggers that are going to, like, calling you back to do it. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think, you do it once, why can't you just stop? It's not that easy. Believe me, if it was, I would have stopped a long time ago. But it's not that easy.
A teenager is very concerned about their identity. Who am I? And they also are concerned about who their friends are. So there's quite a bit of social concern for a teenager.
And so they're willing to take a lot of risks and a lot of chances to belong to a group.
Hi, Dad.
She just turned 12 and was acting out strangely differently, and it progressed very fast. We tried to keep her at home, but her home wasn't a jail. You had this sense of dread and worry all the time because it was just emotionally and mentally devastating. And it's very frustrating when you know where your child is in some crack house or a predator's location, and the police are unable to go and do anything because they're unable. And then she was subjecting herself to so many different dangers that she had, no clue. She really didn't. Whether she wanted to and was aware of it or not, she was a victim because she was a child. And there's nothing that I can do about that.
Dealing with a child who's involved in an addiction, I think, is really one of the most devastating things a parent has to face. This sense of being invaded, almost like someone has stolen something from you, is just profound, and the guilt can be absolutely overwhelming.
You think of your home as a haven, and you think of your family as support, and yet there's a person in your family who's doesn't mean to, but is just tearing you all apart.
You've sought out counseling, you've sought out treatment programs, you've had medical professionals tell you your child needs help, and yet you can't find a treatment center that will take him in. How hopeless does that feel?
It's gotten to the point now where so many families have had to deal with the issue that we are beginning to realize it's not about them. It's about all of us. And when we reach that tipping point, then I think we have the capacity for action as a society, and that's the powerful thing that will change the way the world works for addicted teens and their families now.
This is the very bottom rung of the healthcare ladder, I can assure you. In public support, in reimbursement for practitioners, in places to help manage this condition and so forth.
What we really don't have in hand right now is adequate access to treatment. The economic barrier to accessing therapy or treatment is probably the most significant problem that I think we could solve very easily, just in terms of funding priorities.
If they paid for cancer cure, and my statement always is, the way they pay for addiction, we just pile up bodies. We wouldn't really be able to do anything.
We could really change the dynamic here by advocating, by bringing more information out, and by getting more people attuned to the cost, the price we're all paying for failing to deal more assertively and upfront with this issue.
This is a life and death thing, bottom line. It kills people.
As a parent, you feel more responsible. But as a society, we're all at fault because we're letting these children down.
We need to do something differently for these young people. And we can't expect that they're the ones who are going to have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and fix it.
And the changes I've seen over my lifetime are huge. I mean, absolutely huge. And I know what's coming down the pike is going to be that much better.
I daily get to experience life with a level of quality that I never even dreamed was possible.
I didn't even think there was help out there for people like me. Because a lot of people will think that there isn't, but there is.
One of the things that we hope to do with SAMA is make it easier for families to connect and to find supports, because you don't have to go through this issue by yourself.
Having a support group or a place to call where people understand what you're going through and can help direct you will be an incredibly important thing that the foundation accomplishes.
One hopes that there will be a better understanding about treatment and family support through this process, and that the destigmatization of the diseases of addiction will enable us to get more medical help, more insurance support, and more family counseling available throughout the system.
So money helps, but the advocacy, I can't stress that enough. It's people who are interested, who will volunteer time, who will join up, so to speak. So there is hope. We all got to work to get there, though.
It's a disease that can be fixed. I'm absolutely, positively sure that with some really good attention over the next few years, it can be fixed.